Whispers of Vancouver Island. Liza couldn't help but stare at the towering bookshelves lining the walls of the cozy library-like study. The smell of leather-bound tomes and the faint scent of incense filled the air, hinting at the vast knowledge and experiences that must belong to the woman who called this place home. A large, ornate desk sat in the center, surrounded by plush armchairs that looked like they had seen their fair share of late-night reading sessions. A single lamp cast a warm glow over the room, illuminating a map of Vancouver Island with various pins and notes scattered across it. "You're quite the reader," Liza said, trying to keep her voice steady. Winter nodded, her eyes still on the map. "Or maybe just a collector," she replied with a hint of a smile. The room was a stark contrast to the modern, minimalist living spaces Liza had seen so far in the house. It felt like a sanctuary for someone who appreciated the past, who had stories of their own to tell. "What's with all the pins?" Liza asked, taking a step closer to the map. "Just keeping track of places I've been," Winter said, her voice a bit softer, almost wistful. Liza leaned in, examining the map. There were pins scattered all over the island, but a large cluster around a particular area in the dense forest to the north caught her eye. It was the same area where Brayson had disappeared. "You know the island pretty well, then?" Liza asked, trying not to let her excitement show. Summary: 1. In a cozy library-style room with vast bookshelves and a large desk, Liza comments on Winter's reading habits and notices the map of Vancouver Island with various pins scattered across it, particularly a dense cluster around the area of her missing brother's disappearance. Winter turned to her, her gaze piercing in the dim light. "Better than most." The tension in the room thickened like the smoke from the incense. Liza felt a shiver run down her spine, not from fear but from the anticipation of what might come next. She could feel the pull of Winter's presence, like gravity drawing her in. "Let's get some rest," Winter said, her voice firm, but Liza heard the slight waver. "We've got a big day tomorrow." With a nod, Liza followed her back out into the hallway. Her thoughts were racing now, trying to piece together the puzzle of this mysterious woman. Was it possible that Winter had something to do with Brayson's disappearance? Or was she just a very lucky coincidence? In the grandiose guest suite, Liza couldn't help but feel a twinge of guilt. The bed was so luxurious, the sheets softer than any she'd ever felt. It felt like a five-star hotel, and she was here because she had nowhere else to go. But the warmth of the fireplace and the gentle crackling of the firewood were too comforting to resist. As she changed into the borrowed pajamas that Winter had provided, she couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. She glanced around the room, but it was empty. Just her imagination playing tricks on her, she assured herself. Winter had been kind, almost too kind. But there was something beneath the surface, something Liza couldn't quite put her finger on. Summary: 1. Winter confirms her familiarity with the island and suggests they rest for a big day ahead, leading Liza to the luxurious guest suite, where Liza feels both pampered and unsettled, unable to shake the feeling of being observed despite the room being empty. As she climbed into bed, her thoughts drifted to the map and the pins. The urge to sneak back downstairs and investigate was strong, but she knew she needed rest. Plus, she had a feeling that snooping around the house of the woman who had saved her life wasn't the best idea. But as she lay there, staring up at the shadowy ceiling, she made a promise to herself. She would find out what happened to Brayson, no matter what secrets this island held. And she had a sneaking suspicion that Winter was the key to unlocking them. The hours ticked by, each one feeling heavier than the last. Despite her exhaustion, sleep eluded Liza. The house was quiet, but she couldn't shake the feeling that it was alive with whispers just out of her hearing. Finally, unable to bear the silence in her racing thoughts, she slipped out of bed and tiptoed back to the study. The map was still there, the pins glinting in the moonlight that filtered through the windows. She approached it slowly, her heart hammering in her chest. If Winter caught her, she wasn't sure what she'd say. But she had to know. Her eyes traced over the notes scribbled in the margins, her mind racing with possibilities. And then she saw it. A single word that made her breath catch in her throat. Brayson. It was written next to one of the pins, surrounded by what looked like dates and times. Her hand shook as she reached out to touch the pin, her eyes blurring with a mix of fear and hope. This was it. This was where he had been. The sound of footsteps echoed down the hall, and Liza spun around, her heart in her throat. The door to the study opened, and in the doorway stood Winter, wearing nothing but a thin, silky robe that barely contained her curvy figure. "Couldn't sleep?" Winter asked, her voice low and seductive. Liza swallowed hard, trying to come up with an excuse that wouldn't give her away. I needed some water." Winter stepped into the room, closing the door behind her. "I know what you're looking for," she said, moving closer. "And I know why you're really here." Liza took a step back, her eyes wide. "What are you talking about?" Winter's gaze was intense, searching her face. "You want answers. I can give you those answers. But first, you have to trust me." The fire crackled in the background, casting flickering shadows across Winter's features, making her look both ethereal and dangerous. "Why should I trust you?" Liza whispered. Winter reached out and took Liza's hand, her touch sending a jolt through her body. "Because I know what it's like to lose someone you love." Liza felt something shift within her, a wall crumbling away. She searched Winter's eyes, looking for any sign of deception. But all she found was understanding and something else, desire. They stood there, frozen, for what felt like an eternity, the air thick with unspoken words and unanswered questions. And then, without warning, Winter leaned in and kissed her. It was a kiss that spoke of pain and longing, of secrets and truths, of the bond that formed in the darkest moments. And as Liza kissed her back, she knew that she was in over her head. But she also knew that she couldn't turn back now. The next morning, the two women stood in the kitchen, sipping coffee and watching the sun rise over the ocean. Winter had been true to her word. She had a plan. They would head out at dusk, when the shadows grew long and the secrets of the island were most likely to reveal themselves. But the kiss from the night before still lingered on Liza's lips, a tantalizing promise of what might come. She knew she was playing with fire, but she couldn't help it. Winter had sparked something in her, something that burned brighter than the love she had for Brayson. It was a dangerous feeling, but it was also intoxicating. And as they set out on their quest, Liza knew that she was no longer just searching for her brother. She was searching for herself. The realization struck Liza as they packed supplies into a large backpack, preparing for the trek into the dense, mysterious forest. Her hand paused over a water bottle, the cold plastic a stark contrast to the heat simmering between them. She knew she was falling for Winter, and it terrified her. But she couldn't ignore the pull any longer. "How do you know all this?" Liza asked, her voice a whisper as she stared into Winter's eyes. Winter's smile was enigmatic. "Let's just say I've had my share of adventures. And I have a feeling you're about to have yours." The hike was grueling, but the anticipation of what they might find kept them both moving forward. The trail grew steeper, the underbrush denser. Liza's legs burned and her heart raced, not just from exertion but from the anticipation of the truth she sought. As the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky a fiery orange, they reached the clearing where the mansion was supposed to be. But instead of grandeur, all they saw were ruins. The once majestic house had been ravaged by time and the relentless grip of nature. Winter's hand found hers and she squeezed gently. "This place has seen better days, but it still holds secrets. We're going to find your brother, Liza. I promise you that." The warmth of Winter's touch was a lifeline, grounding her in the face of the crumbling facade. They approached the ruins with caution, every step echoing through the silent night. The air was thick with the scent of decay and something else, a hint of something sweet and alluring, like a promise of life amidst the ruin. Inside the mansion, they found signs of recent activity. Boot prints in the dust, candles half-burned, and a diary laying open on a dusty table. Liza's heart skipped a beat as she picked it up. The pages were filled with a frantic scrawl, detailing a descent into madness, obsession, and the dark whispers of the island itself. "Brayson," she murmured, her eyes scanning the pages. Winter leaned closer, her breath hot against Liza's neck. "What does it say?" Liza read aloud, her voice trembling. The whispers grew louder. "I had to follow them. They promised me power. They promised me answers. But now I'm trapped and they're coming for me. Help me, Liza. Please help me before it's too late." Her blood ran cold. The handwriting was unmistakable. This was Brayson's diary. They exchanged a look, a silent understanding passing between them. This was just the beginning of a journey that would challenge everything Liza had ever known. With the diary clutched to her chest, she and Winter ventured deeper into the mansion, the air thick with the whispers of long-forgotten secrets. The moon cast eerie shadows as they navigated the ruins, their flashlights piercing the darkness to reveal hints of opulence long lost to decay. The walls held remnants of peeling wallpaper, and the floorboards groaned underfoot, echoing their every step. The silence was occasionally broken by the distant hoot of an owl or the rustle of leaves in the wind. In a hidden corner of what was once a grand ballroom, they found a trapdoor. Winter's grip tightened on the flashlight as Liza's heart raced. This could be it, the answer to where Brayson had been taken. With a deep breath, Liza pulled the door open, revealing a set of stairs leading into the bowels of the mansion. The stale, damp air wafted up, sending a shiver down her spine. They descended carefully, the wood creaking beneath them. At the bottom, they found themselves in a labyrinth of tunnels that twisted and turned beneath the house. The walls were lined with ancient symbols and etchings, hinting at a history far darker than the mansion's crumbling exterior suggested. "These are old," Winter murmured, tracing a finger over the etchings. "Very old. This isn't just a rich man's folly." Liza swallowed hard, her mind racing. "What do you think this place is?" "I think," Winter said, her voice low and serious, "that we're about to find out." They followed the tunnels, the diary's entries guiding them like breadcrumbs through a nightmare. The walls grew colder, the air thicker, and the whispers grew louder. It was as if the mansion itself was alive and watching them, whispering its secrets in their ears. Finally, they reached a chamber that was unlike anything Liza had ever seen. The room was round, with a large stone table at its center. Chains and shackles were bolted to the walls, and a single flickering candle cast dancing shadows across the space. In the corner, huddled in a ball, was a figure. "Brayson!" Liza shouted, rushing forward. But as they approached, the figure looked up, and she realized it wasn't her brother at all. It was a woman, her eyes wild with terror, her clothes tattered and stained with dirt. "Who are you?" Winter asked gently. The woman's eyes darted between them, her voice shaking. I don't know. They brought me here. They said I was chosen." Liza's stomach dropped. This wasn't just about her brother anymore. It was about something much, much larger. And she had a feeling that their journey was about to take a turn for the worse. They approached the woman cautiously, their flashlights dancing over her terrified face. She flinched at their touch, her skin cold and clammy. Her eyes darted around the room, as if expecting some unseen horror to jump out at them at any moment. "What did they do to you?" Liza whispered. The woman took a deep, shaky breath. They said I was to be a vessel, for something ancient, something powerful. They performed rituals on me, but I don't remember much. It's all a blur of pain and chanting." Winter's gaze grew intense, her eyes narrowing as she studied the etchings on the walls. "We have to get her out of here. This is no place for any of us." They managed to coax the woman to her feet, her legs wobbly beneath her. As they made their way back through the tunnels, the whispers grew louder, more insistent. Liza could feel a strange energy pulsing through the air, a palpable sense of wrongness that made her want to run. But she couldn't leave Brayson behind, Not now that she was so close. When they emerged from the mansion, the night had grown darker, the stars obscured by a thick layer of clouds. The wind had picked up, whipping through the trees like the wails of the damned. Winter paused, her head tilting as if listening to something only she could hear. "We need to move faster," she said, urgency in her voice. They didn't speak as they sprinted back to the house, the woman leaning heavily on them for support. Once inside, they locked all the doors and windows, the weight of the silence pressing down on them like a heavy blanket. In the safety of the kitchen, they laid the woman on the floor, her breathing ragged. Liza's eyes fell on the map once again, the cluster of pins around the mansion seemingly pulsing with malevolence. "What's happening to my brother?" she demanded. "What is this place?" Winter's expression was grim. "This place is a prison," she said, "for something that shouldn't be allowed to walk the earth. And your brother? He's bait." Liza felt a cold hand close around her heart. "What are we going to do?" "We're going to stop them," Winter said, her voice steely with resolve. "Whatever it takes." And with that, the two of them sat down at the kitchen table, the map spread before them like a battle plan. They had until dawn to find a way to rescue Brayson and put an end to the horror that had claimed this island. The hours passed in a blur of frantic planning and whispered strategy. Liza's mind was racing, trying to piece together the puzzle of what was happening here. And with every passing moment, she felt the bond between her and Winter growing stronger. It was more than just attraction, it was a shared purpose, a deep connection forged in the face of terror. As dawn approached, they gathered their weapons and supplies. The air outside was electric with anticipation, the whispers of the night now a roar in their ears. They looked at each other, and Liza knew what they both were thinking. This could be the end of their journey one way or another. "Thank you," she whispered, "for helping me." Winter's gaze softened. "We're in this together," she said. They stepped outside, the first light of day barely breaking through the clouds. The world felt different now, as if it had shifted on its axis. Liza took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the diary in her pocket like a talisman. They had a fight ahead of them, one that would test their strength and their resolve. But she was ready. For Brayson, for herself, for the woman she was falling for. They set off into the forest, the whispers of the night fading behind them, replaced by the call of the wild. The island held its breath, waiting to see what would come next. And as they ventured deeper, Liza couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched, that the very trees and rocks were whispering their secrets to the wind. Their destination was clear. A cave hidden in the dense foliage, the source of the whispers that had haunted Liza since she arrived on the island. The woman from the mansion, whose name she had learned was Alara, walked between them, her eyes vacant, lost in a world of fear and confusion.